Heya, my faithful star kittens. I'm Sebastiana, your magical cat girl Vtuber. Today I bring you my first video of the May of the Maiden. We set off on the path of a young girl whose courage would change the fate of history. So fluff up your tails, my star kittens. We are tracing the first steps of Jeanne d'Arc's legendary journey. The story of Jeanne d'Arc begins in January 1412 in the village of Domremy, in the French part of the Duchy of Tar, which is now in Lorraine. Jeanne was born to a local peasant farmer named Jacques d'Arc and his wife, Isabelle Romée. Jacques had 50 acres, circa 20 hectares, of land and also worked as a village official, collecting taxes and heading the local watch. Jeanne had 3 brothers and a sister who, like her, had to help at home, as it was custom during those times. She did household chores, spun wool, helped her father in the fields, and looked after their animals. A quiet life full of chores and fields, but even the smallest spark can set the stars alight. Destiny often wears the cloak of the ordinary, until it doesn't. France during this time was a war-torn country. For over 75 years, the 100 Years' War had raged between the Kingdom of France, headed by the House Valois, and the Kingdom of England, ruled by the House of Plantagenet. One of the strongest allies of England and France was the Burgundian state. Domremy itself was on the frontier between loyalist French territory and Burgundy. This meant it was surrounded by Burgundian land, whose soldiers raided the village in 1425. This led to a widespread sentiment among the villagers that the English invaders had to be expelled to achieve the unification of and peace in France. The setting, a war-torn France. The mood, grim. But every great magical tale starts in darkness, right before a spark of hope. Shortly after this raid, in 1425, Jeanne, aged 13 years, had her first vision. Cue the celestial light beams and mysterious music. This is Jeanne's magical awakening moment. According to her, a figure she identified as Archangel Michael, the patron saint of the area, surrounded by angels, appeared to her in her garden. From then on, she frequently saw visions of Michael, Saint Margaret, and Saint Catherine, and heard voices telling her to save France. Voices from heaven, Saint Michael and the saints? Jeanne was living that divine mentor life. During this time, prophecies were circulating in the countryside. One, attributed to the Arthurian Merlin, stated a virgin carrying a banner would put an end to France's suffering. Another prophecy, based on the visions of Marie Robin of Avignon, promised that an armed virgin would emerge to save the kingdom. This culminated in a saying that France would be destroyed by a woman, but would be restored by a virgin, the Virgin of Lorraine. Legends foretold her arrival, a virgin with a banner, sent to save a broken kingdom. Sounds like the beginning of a magical anime arc, right? To achieve this goal, Jeanne planned to go to Chinon, where the Dauphin of France, the heir apparent, Charles VII, held court. In May 1428, she traveled to Valencourt to convince the local garrison commander, Robert de Baudricourt, to give her an armed escort to Chinon. He denied her and sent her home. Denied? Jeanne may not have performed wonders yet, but a real magical girl never gives up after the first no. In July, Domremy was again raided by Burgundian forces. They set fire to the town and destroyed all the crops, forcing the townspeople to flee. This led Jeanne to go again to Valencourt in January 1429 and petition Robert de Baudricourt anew. He denied her again, but she gained the support of some of his soldiers and local villagers. After that, she was summoned to Nancy. Charles II, Duke of Lorraine, had fallen ill and believed she could heal him using supernatural powers. She denied being anything more than a servant of God. Even nobles were starting to think she had magical powers, but Jeanne, she served something greater. In February, as the English grip around the besieged and strategically important city of Aurelia tightened, Robert de Baudricourt agreed to a third meeting with Jeanne. Supported by two of his soldiers, Jean de Metz and Bertrand de Poulengy, she managed to convince Baudricourt to give her a 6-man escort to travel to Chinon. Before leaving, the now 17-year-old Jeanne put on men's clothes, provided by her escorts and the people of Vaucouleurs, to disguise herself as a man. She continued to wear men's clothes for the rest of her life. And just like any good magical girl transformation, but reversed, Jeanne donned men's clothes to ride toward destiny. Meeting at Chinon on March 4th, Jeanne and her escort arrived in Chinon. The military and political situation left the Dauphin, Charles VII, in a difficult position. When Jeanne met the Dauphin, she was able to convince him during a private conversation of her divine mission. During this exchange, she told him that she had come to raise the siege of Orléans and to lead him to Reims for his coronation. She also reassured Charles that he was Charles VI's son and a legitimate king. A secret meeting, a royal reveal, Jeanne dropped divine truths like a magical girl monologue before a major boss fight. After having her examined by a group of clerics and advisors at Poitiers to ensure her orthodoxy and having her virginity proved, he commissioned plate armor for her, and Jeanne was given a sword from under the altar in the church of Sainte Catherine de Fierbois. She designed her own banner reading Jesus, Mary. From this point onward, she began calling herself Jeanne la Pucelle, which means Joan the Maiden, highlighting her virginity as a sign of her mission. From political feud to holy crusade, talk about magical girl plot twist. Jeanne leveled up the whole storyline. Once Jeanne joined the Dauphin's cause, her personality began to raise morale amongst the French, inspiring devotion and the hope of divine assistance. Her belief in the divine origin of her mission turned the long-standing Anglo-French conflict over inheritance into a religious war and gave the French hope for their liberation. And so, with her banner in her hand and faith unshakable, Jeanne d'Arc rode out to meet her destiny. But how does a peasant girl become the hero of a kingdom? That, my star kittens, is a tale for next episode. So stay tuned and thank you for watching.